and I take him and I've got him in the Boston Crab, right? And I'm really laying the squeeze down on him. And he's like, fine, you can have the Baja Blast Mountain Dew.
And that's why we were asked not to return to Workbench Con. And I didn't understand because we were in the hotel. We weren't even at a Taco Bell. Where'd the Baja Blast come from?
Again, somebody had a sixer, dude. Like,
we are going to revisit this, but right now we're live.
Okay, live it is.
Welcome, good evening, happy birthday to somebody out there. I'm not sure who. You know who. Welcome to Wednesday night. It's another episode of Sawdust Talk. I'm going to say best. I'm partial. It is definitely the livest audio Instagram experience at 9 Central on Wednesday night. So, well, put that down on your resume. You're here. Mm-hmm. We've got a great guest for you tonight. We've got Andrew from 2511, which is, I think, slightly better than 2410 woodworking. So we're probably going to figure out what those numbers mean because I think it's code. I'm Braden. We got TJ here, like always. And yeah, so that's that. Special thanks to our sponsors. You guys can probably tell I've reworked the banner palooza back here because I just don't want to be discreet about how much we really love Surf Prep here. Their personalities are not abrasive, but the paper is. They're great for the community. They're really leaning heavy into this Makers for St. Jude thing that we got involved into. So, in fact, they just launched a giveaway for one of the 3x4 Wiggle, 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 Wiggle sanders today. So go check out their post. Also, special thanks to George Supply Co. If you want to start a maker shop of your own, slap your logo on a t-shirt because everybody knows you're not a real maker if you don't have your own logo on stuff. Go check out George Supply Co. All right, Andrew, that's the whole show. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you guys later. Perfect. What's up, Andrew?
What's going on?
Do you go by Andrew?
I don't have my shirt on, but I have Brian's shirt on.
Do you go by Andrew or Andy or Drew or Andrizzle?
Funny enough, I usually let people pick, and most people pick Andrew.
I'm going to Andrizzle.
You can go with Andrizzle. Actually, most people call me Sarge. Really?
Okay. Like, yeah. Let's get into that. What? Like just strangers on the
street. That's his last name.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I was in the army. I was in the army, so there's a duality there that people really can't pass up.
With a last name like Sarge, were you kind of like destined to go into the army from the very beginning?
My whole family's pretty much been in the military, so I feel like I was kind of destined regardless of the last name. My dad was a Marine. My mom was a Marine. Both my grandparents. My one grandpa was in the Army. One was in the Air Force. Most of my cousins. We all kind of just do that, I guess.
Yeah. Just join the family business.
Yeah. Well, and I graduated high school in 2004, so it was sort of ripe for the picking at the time.
Yeah, there was a lot of work to do at the time.
Yeah.
That's actually how I came to be in Omaha, Nebraska. My dad was in the Navy, and right around that time they had him take over the command of the recruiting district here in Omaha, Nebraska in early 2002. So, showing up to the Midwest and telling a bunch of people, hey, you want to live a Toby Keith song and go see what that whole ocean thing everybody keeps talking about looks like? We got some paperwork for you.
That's how Dylan ended up here. His wife is a Marine Corps recruiter.
So
Sandman Wood Designs. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he's here. I like that beautiful guy on top. Oh.
Oh my.
Subtle.
All right, boss. So why wood turning? How did it happen? And is there a cure for getting bit by the wood turning bug?
Well, I'm not the person to ask for a cure. I'll tell you that. I started it honestly because I needed something to do. Like, I know I've talked about it before, but basically I got out of the Army, moved to New York because that's where my ex-wife was from. didn't know anybody, and then promptly got divorced. So going through all of that with my little boy, who was like a year and a half old, I needed something to keep myself busy at night, and I had a little one-bedroom apartment. So I bought a little Wen lathe, and I would set it up on my kitchen counter and just mess with it.
And just cover your countertop with tiny
I
shavings.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
you had a one-bedroom apartment, so you thought, what is the absolute messiest and only tool that just we don't even bother with dust collection on? Like it's not even we don't even try to pretend we got it. What's that
I
tool look like? I
I
want it.
use dust collection for sanding.
Okay, that was my next question: is what is sanding in a kitchen like?
With a shop vac. Just sat around with a shop vac and just cleaned up every day. And I wasn't I wasn't making anything big at the time because the Wen at the time was, I think, a 6 or an 8 inch swing. So I was really just making little random shaped pieces in my kitchen. I did rings for a little while, like nothing really big. Um, but it was a mess. But it was the only thing I could think of that was quiet enough to do in an apartment.
All
You
right.
know? You can't exactly be like running a contractor saw in your living room when you're in a building with 8 other apartments.
I
Well,
mean, you
not
can, but
yeah,
you
I
don't
not
mean,
need
you
with
to stay.
can.
not with that attitude. You can't.
You can. It's not a good way to make friends, though.
Gotcha. And so, after making the highest fiber waffles in the tri-state area,
Yep.
um,
I was gonna ask what sawdust tastes best in macaroni and cheese.
That's a good question. Probably
It's
poplar.
it's a walnut.
okay, yeah, no, walnut dust infused maple syrup waffles. I could get into it. I believe in us, and now the challenge is accepted. But I got a feeling, I don't
Paducah
know.
has
I
its
think
own
I'm
built-in
starting to build
spicy.
up walnut sensitivity, like to the dust and the shavings. So I don't know if eating green walnut shavings is the best idea,
Probably not.
but I'll try it once for science.
It's high
Just as long as you
fiber.
have an EpiPen.
Yeah.
You
It's
know, I
technic.
tried that once. I did make a reel trying to be funny a long time ago, and I took a bunch of walnut plain shavings and put them in a bowl and pretended to eat them, and it totally tanked.
Well, it's because everybody could tell that you weren't fully committed. You have to actually eat them.
Yeah, apparently.
I would say try it again. I bet you get twice as many views.
That wouldn't be saying much.
Dozens
Yeah,
of
there'd be
views.
dozens of people who would think it's wonderful. There's
I
tens of us wood turners out here on the internet.
I am
Right?
also a never nude.
Okay, so one of the things that you and I have in common that our listeners may or may not know about is that we are both members of the Royal Order of Wood Turners. You want to talk a little bit about Royal Order?
Um, it's been a really great group of people. You and Eric and everybody's gotten me to try new things and help. Like I'll say, the big shot blowout, that big contest we did. I was really in a funk when all that started and decided to do it anyway. And doing that handle kind of like got me re-energized and re-motivated again and trying something new and doing something different. And that ended up being kind of the segue into the saw stop handles too. But I ended up joining because you and Eric basically just harassed me until I caved. Like I don't even know how long it was, but I swear every time I talked to Eric, he was just like, "So when are you gonna join?" And I was like, "I don't know." Imposter syndrome. I was like, "I'm not good enough for any of that." And
The whole thing for Eric and I was to create an online community for wood turners to be able to geek out with other wood turners, right? And there's so much communication that you can do in each other's direct messages on the gram and other social media platforms, but to essentially offer a live forum sort of, right? It's like a live internet forum group chat that allows people to ask questions of, well, honestly, any nature at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got people asking welding questions, we've got people asking wood turning questions, beer, comic books, and movies come up a lot, but there's like we have strings of cooking on there every once in a
Yeah.
while.
Where
We
do
did
We
baby
had a
lathes come
little pile
from?
of music for a while.
yeah,
And
and
then
it's just again, it's another online community for wood turners to be near other wood turners, and we're all weirdos, right? That's the
yeah.
other thing. Like I have figured this out, and you and I have chatted about this. How I think all of the indie rockers and the punks from like the early 2000s are now really getting into woodworking and especially wood turning.
Yeah.
Um, it is a pretty peculiar trend amongst the, I don't know, the neo hipsters or like
I
I,
guess, huh?
what would you, I don't know what to call it. I'm
I
not
don't
calling
know.
us woodfluencers, but you know what I mean. Like the internet-based woodworking community generation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what you call it, but no, there's a shocking correlation between like retired punks and veterans and and we all have ADHD and we're all weird
Yeah.
and we all just talk about woodworking all the time. I don't know how my wife doesn't hate it. Um she's my biggest supporter. She knows nothing about it. She has no interest in any of it, but boy, she will look at every single thing I make with enthusiasm every
That's
time.
awesome.
Like
Speaking of every
every
single thing you make, can you get those tiny mallets out again real quick? Tiny mallets.
I have a pile of them. No, no, you have to hear the name for them. They're pocket knockers.
That's delightful.
I don't like how much I like that. Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
think all of us are kind of aware that you hit a certain age, and as men, we have to pick our identity for the rest of our lives, and it's either got to be woodworking of some sort, smoking meat of some sort, or like boats. And I can't afford the money pit that goes into a boat. Also,
I have no love for boats.
I'm a really disappointing Navy child. My dad was a Navy pilot. I hate planes and boats. The worst.
Aw.
So,
Yeah, I don't
but
like
anyway,
boats either. Planes don't bother me, but I don't like boats. I have no love for jumping out of planes. Um, the little veteran circle has quite a few airborne and air assault soldiers, and a slang term for ground troops is a dirty leg, which will probably ring a bell if you know Ian. Um, and they all know, like, I am the dirtiest of dirty legs. I never did airborne school. I never did air assault school. I never even attempted it. Um, I know, like, if it's a functioning aircraft, I don't want to get off before it lands. I
that's
just
the
don't.
point.
I mean,
Yeah.
that seems reasonable. I have an
Yeah.
irrational fear of helicopters and riding in them. Every helicopter that I've ever seen in a movie that didn't have the president or Daddy Warbucks on it eventually crashes, right? And that's the thing, is that, like, one, I'm not Daddy Warbucks yet, right? But I'm also not the president. And so, like, people take helicopter tours of like lakes and tourist areas, and I'm like, that helicopter ain't gonna land. I've
Well,
seen it.
subliminally, it's because I think that you understand, like all of us do at our cores, helicopters to like aircrafts is like bumblebees. There's no reason with physics that they should be able to fly, and yet there they are, just yeeting them things into Vietnam.
I actually prefer helicopters. I spent a lot of time in helicopters. I
And they
prefer it to
landed.
planes.
Okay,
All the
Daddy
time.
Warbucks.
I don't believe.
All the time. Although I'll tell you what, like combat landings in a helicopter, I would possibly prefer jumping out. They're not fun. But no, never been in a helicopter crash. Know quite a few people who have been in helicopter crashes, but not me.
Yeah, no thanks.
The fact that you know several people have been in helicopter crashes, and I don't know many of us that know anybody that's been in a plane crash, I feel like is kind of like bringing home the whole point.
But I feel like it's maybe also a testament that you stand a better chance of surviving a helicopter crash.
Not in a movie.
Black Hawk Down.
I saw that documentary, Independence Day.
Okay.
So getting back to your pocket knockers, which sounds like a street gang next to Quick Trip. Why? Why do you have tiny knockers?
I don't know. Honestly, I had a bunch of little scraps, and I made the mallet handles, and then the one full mallet for the auction with Brian. And I just decided to make little mallets.
They're adorable. Do you have tiny chisels with which you can do, like, I don't know, what's the coal rossing is sort of like wooden spoon
Colonoscopy?
scrimshaw, I think.
You probably could. No, mostly it was just little scraps that I couldn't part with. And it just made like this little, I probably can't see, but there's like
It's
tons
so
of curl.
curly and wonderful.
Yeah. And it was just this little chunk of wood, and I'm like, what am I going to do with that? And that's what I'm going to do with it.
Oh, I'm for it, man. So you're gonna start a side hustle doing linoleum block printing, and you're gonna use tiny mallets and tiny chisels to put your artwork into the linoleum.
I would prefer to sell the tiny mallets to people who want to do that.
Okay,
So-
well, now we've created a marketplace. $20 a week on Facebook selling pocket knockers.
I was going
Right.
to say, is the target demographic for the pocket knockers babies or people with very, very small Burger King hands?
Or
Or
like the
people
world's
that-
tiniest semi-truck drivers.
Or you have people like Steve, where his son hangs out in the shop with him all the time, and his son's like 3, so like this is totally 3-year-old sized. Or just people who want to put a little mallet on their wall because they think it's funny.
People that have like 1/16th scale semi-truck models.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you got to check the tire pressure on those power wheels, right?
Yeah,
Even
for
though
sure.
those wheels are made out of plastic, you can check the pressure.
Pressure's still got to be good.
Pocket knockers.
Or if you have, multiple children that fight over the power wheels, now you have an equalizer for the younger one.
You throw one in the middle and say, figure out who gets dessert, kids.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
And I wanted to see if I could do that tenon, like these all have through tenons.
Mm.
And it's like a 3/8 inch tenon.
Don't
Okay,
lie.
so-
You just got paint and just like drew a little dot on the end.
No.
Oh man,
No.
we already have I think you already have like 3 or 4 tiny little knockers sold in the chat here.
Well,
If-
some of them are already spoken for. A couple of them aren't. But
So before we get too carried away, you have a sort of unique technique for your wood turning that you have shared with us over at Royal Order, that because the cool kids that are watching on YouTube and Instagram Live have the video feed, can you get a sample of?
oh yeah.
is this that thing that you mentioned where he uses his teeth?
Yes.
I want to
he's-
point out the fact that he talks about imposter syndrome, and he's got, let's see, like 37 wood pokey things in the background. That seems legit. Wait, you went out of frame the other direction. How did you pull that off?
You're a wizard,
Yes.
Harry.
Because I'm in my garage or my
You're a
basement.
wizard.
I can just walk around. So,
Now I have no concept of like what space and scale is, because those I thought were going to be way longer, and then you just like picked them up and it was like an optical illusion, and everything in your shop is like a tiny pocket knocker size.
I mean, these aren't small, but they are the thread inlays that he was talking about.
See? You guys can't see. I'm pointing at the screen.
Describe this in a word picture, TJ. What is this?
Okay, so
what
for
am I
those
looking
of
at?
you that are on the audio version, Andrew has developed a technique of doing what I consider really, really clean inlays by cutting a V groove into his pieces and then laying colored embroidery floss into it. Like you
Yeah.
were going to do an inlay with a pigment powder, but it's opaque and it builds. And then do you then soak it and fill it with like thick CA? Is that the
Uh,
recipe?
Usually thin. So I usually flood it with the thin CA, and then after that, over the top, you do a heavy, thin, or a medium so that it fills in any irregularities in the surface, and then you can clean it up from there. But it's just
Friendship
rather,
bracelet thread.
yeah, pretty
Ooh.
much. And I have a lot of it. I grabbed all of it. There's
In all the colors of the wind.
because you get it at like craft stores, and it's like $7 for all of this,
And
for
then
just a
all the
huge pack
colors.
of it. Yeah, anything you could imagine,
Now
even multiple colors.
you got
Like,
G strings in every color.
yeah,
But I mean, the thing is the technique, I think, sort of transcends just wood turning. I mean, it's pretty quick to do on a lathe, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah.
But
I
I
haven't
mean,
seen anybody do it off the lathe yet, but I bet you could.
yeah. So for those of you with your CNCs and your lasers that have been using pigment powders and epoxy,
Yeah,
It
consider
seems
other fillers.
it seems like
yeah.
it might be kind of tedious. Like on the lathe, I'm guessing it can kind of spin a little bit, and you like spin to build volume. It would get kind of tedious
I
doing that on flat work.
I usually spin it by hand because it really doesn't take as much as you'd think. So like this, you can kind of see the depth of it, but it's not super deep. It's maybe an eighth inch deep, and you take two or three layers and it comes up. So like 12 turns on the lathe.
See, I think it's awesome. I think
Oh,
it's
it's
awesome. It's a
freaking
fun
sweet.
innovation. Nobody else is doing it. And
Well, more
it's
people are doing it now. It's kind of turning into a thing.
well, that's
Ha,
because you're such a trendsetter, you wood turning influencer, you.
It's turn
Apparently,
it's turning into a thing.
it's
I
turning
mean,
into a thing.
boy.
Oh, but yeah, I didn't even really realize it until Casey Bombshell was like, "So I've seen this yarn abuse thing. What's that about? Where did that come from?" I was like, "Actually, it was kind of my thing."
Can we just
Yeah.
point out, like, Maker on the rise? I'm hearing KC Bombshell in like every other conversation that I have since Maker Workbench Con. Like, she does some great stuff, and I'm hearing
Mhm.
about her everywhere.
She's a
Yeah.
cool kid.
Well, she's so one of the big things that happened is I know that a handful of us started doing our shirts through her and promoting her because for me anyway, so get this. So I did a couple of shirt designs on Bonfire, right? Everybody knows that company. She went, she bought one of my shirts, didn't say anything, showed it off, and then I found out like 2 months later that she makes shirts. Like she gave money to a random Chinese company that could have been her business, no questions asked. So it was like, well, okay, I'm gonna do my shirts from you now instead. And she's like one of us too. She's one of the punk metal kids who just is weird.
Yeah. Well, we're a bunch of real weird Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I am working on getting her scheduled as a guest in the not too distant future. She, yeah, it's her story to tell, but she's got some day schedule conflicts that can make evenings a little tricky for her. So, um,
Yeah, no.
I know
She,
she's enthusiastic to get on. I'm enthusiastic to chat her up, but we'll see how schedules work out.
she's a secret luchador, and not the one you would think.
Find out on next week's episode. So no, I get that. I mean, if we're really honest, we're like 2.5 hours past when I usually go to bed.
Yeah, but you paid me an extra special favor to stay up past bedtime. And then you wake up at 0 dark 30 every morning. You and the rest of the Timex watch wearers like to wake up at 0400.
I mean, I don't like to, but my daughter gets up at 4:30 every day.
Just like
So
with
we.
gusto, or is that the
Oh
way?
yeah, no, absolutely. So.
Kids make the most adorably awful alarm clocks. I
Well,
had
and I can tell. So she's 15. She is nonverbal autistic. So the alarm clock is usually the Elmo potty song blasting at max volume.
it's a banger tune.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I know
both
the
hips
whole
and
thing.
hops.
It's yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot at 4:30 in the morning. But so we all usually go to bed 8 o'clock ish because we sleep when she sleeps.
No, that makes sense, man.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about this month's Royal Order challenge? I know we touched on it a little bit, but it's kind of a nice segue.
Yeah, I would sneak peek, but it's upstairs drying. Um, so I got put in a position to make the challenge, and because it's April, because it's Autism Month, and one of the big symbols of autism is the puzzle piece, we set out the challenge to make a piece out of multiple pieces of wood stitched together. Um, I'm making a kendama. I'm trying to.
Oh, cool.
A
Yeah.
what?
It's basically a fancy ball and cup game.
Yeah, no, it's a
It's
classic wood turning project, man. Like,
yeah. I've never made one before, so I laminated a bunch of different pieces and I've got it mostly done. I just have to make the ball.
yeah, that was my next question is how's the sphere going?
Oh, fine. I have a practice one.
TJ, are we talking about that thing that
Yep.
shop
Yeah, the shopsmith folks
shopsmith?
had.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
little
just
cup
like
thing that
normally
I
sort of a
Yeah.
cone with a cup. Yep. Ooh, nice sphere.
it's a nice
Yeah,
ball.
that's my practice one.
It's a curly ball.
So, did you use a rubber chucky or how did
No,
you?
no. Just turned it between centers and then sanded off the nubs.
That ain't
Sandy
bad.
nubs.
Did you use a silhouette behind it or did you just eyeball it and
No,
get hectic?
I just went. I turned out the cylinder and then I marked. I figured out. I measured the diameter at 2 inches, marked out 2 inches, and then 1 inch in the middle, and then just went for it.
God, I love wood turning. That's
I feel
about how
like
much planning I would put into it also.
I feel like there's a level of winging it that people who don't do wood turning can't fully appreciate.
Okay, but like
I'm here not fully appreciating it.
there's a lot of
Friggin'
like
lathe guys.
good tricks for
Yeah,
getting your sphere spherical,
yeah,
right? So like you can print out a circle on a piece of computer paper roughly the size that you're looking for and put it behind your workpiece
yeah.
and then turn the workpiece until it covers the circle and you've
Right.
got a sphere, right? Like that's another one.
You can even swing the light to the front and use the shadow.
Yeah.
The old bat
I
signal technique.
I had to do that for the football. Brian had me turn him a football, and boy, I really underestimated that shape. Um, I ended up doing that. I printed out a football and taped it to the wall.
Did you end up with like a couple of rugby balls the first couple of times or
I managed to do it all with the same piece. The same piece just was slightly smaller than I originally intended.
okay?
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was pretty much a rugby ball at first, and I was like, okay, I need better reference for this, for sure.
That's so fun. So let's talk about green woodworking versus dry woodworking, which is a wood turners thing. Do you turn green wood frequently?
Not that frequently. When I get to, I do. So I have some now. Finally, actually, one of my kid's pediatrician actually cut down an oak tree, so I have a bunch of oak that I have to cut into blanks.
Okay, and this is me being your wood turning friend telling you to seal the end grain now because
Yeah.
your oak is going to explode.
No, they cut it down a few days ago, and a couple of the pieces already started. So
Yeah,
I sealed everything, and I'm gonna have to trim off the ends of a couple of them and
right on.
reseal it. Yeah.
But yeah, and then for all of the cool kids who don't know anything about seal and end grain of your green
Mm.
wood, you find that half a gallon jug of like Tite Bond 1 that you bought like a month ago, right? And so you've got like a half a gallon of Tite Bond 1, and then you fill the other half of it up with tap water, right? You don't put anything fancy else in there, and then you've got yourself a whole gallon of end grain sealer. And then when that gets about halfway empty, you pour tap water on it again, and you've got a whole gallon of end grain sealer.
Yeah, and just don't do oak or cherry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, cherry end grain will split if you just look at it cross-eyed.
Oh, the only way I've ever successfully dried cherry is by rough turning a blank and then putting it in a paper bag of shavings next to my sump pump in the corner of the basement where it's super humid.
And you just like waited a year and
And
prayed.
just waited like a year. And it's the only one that didn't just obliterate itself.
Okay. Do you have a favorite species of wood to turn?
Probably box elder.
Wonderful choice.
Yeah, like if I had to pick one, probably box elder.
Yeah. My dirty wood turning secret is that I love turning persimmon.
I never have.
I'm blessed with a group of guys on the north side of the city that harvest the urban timber when lots get cleared and stuff like that, and then they process it, and they get persimmon. The company is called Lumber Logs, and they have an Instagram page if you want to see all the cool stuff that they do. Um,
Nice.
but persimmon will fly off of a sharpened tool like modeling clay. It's
That's
crazy.
awesome.
Um, it's one of the most confidence inspiring woods. And I felt like it was the real turning point for like one, me feeling like I figured out how to sharpen my tools, right? And then two, finally understanding how to introduce the edge to the wood.
I feel like horse chestnut was that way. I just recently got a couple blanks from the Dahir guys of horse chestnut, and it's really soft. And I thought it was going to be like turning buckeye, which is just, I mean, I love buckeye. I can't stay away from it, but it's a nightmare to turn. And I thought it was going to be like that, and it just wasn't. It was so easy.
That's so cool.
It was so easy, and it was so easy to get a smooth finish right off the. I was absolutely shocked because it is like weight and density. It's like buckeye, and I was like, well, this is going to be a nightmare, but it's going to be pretty when it's done. And it was super easy.
But okay, so from your love of buckeye, which has delightful staining and all kinds of fun stuff going on in it,
Yeah,
and box elder, which if you can put the right finish and keep it out of the sunlight and don't feed it
yeah,
after midnight, will keep its red staining on it, right?
yeah, yeah.
You like the woods with the surprises on the inside.
I do. Yeah, I've got a Kentucky cherry. I think it's cherry. I don't remember. Ian could tell. It's either cherry or cedar. But I have a big nasty root ball sitting in my basement waiting for a bigger lathe too.
Do it.
I don't have
Oh,
anything
I'm
to
going to.
add. I don't have anything to add. I just want to say how much fun I'm having just watching you guys nerd out about your lathe stuff.
I don't
You
feel like
weirdo lathe guys.
expectations have not been met.
You were
Every
saying
single one of my posts informing our audiences about how dorky this was going to get,
Yeah.
you were all warned.
you guys are saying a bunch of words that I'm certain are just made up.
Yeah, Braden, tell me more about G code real quick.
Oh man, G code. Ooh, you just punch it in and it just does what you want. And if it goes wrong, it's not because of a surprise. It's because you did it wrong. That's the most upsetting part about working with like CNCs and lasers. The second something goes wrong, you wanna blame the tool for doing something dumb, but you did it, and you did it with a computer, and that's the dumbest way you could possibly do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have an argument.
So Can you think of off the top of your head any especially memorable, I don't want to say lathe accidents. I mean, I'm pretty sure you still got all your digis, but like,
I do have all my
um,
fingers.
yeah, have you noticed that the wood turners on YouTube that have been at it for like 25 years, almost all of them are a little short on at least one digit?
Yeah, and that's kind of why I have the tool rests I have, because I feel like it helps me keep my fingers where they belong. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
get
a
like,
firm believer in the fact that the tool rest is a tool rest and not a hand rest.
yeah, I get the ones with the scalloped back so that my hands stay behind it instead of finding their way on the wrong side of things. Yeah. But I don't remember who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody about it the other day where everybody thinks the lathe is really scary. It's like, yeah, don't touch the spinny stuff.
Yeah, like if you wouldn't put your tongue on it, don't put your hand there.
Yeah. And I mean, don't touch the spinny thing pretty much applies to every tool in woodworking.
Yeah.
Like, if it's spinning, keep your fingers away from it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But most
And
of the
it's,
other spinning things in woodworking, we don't jab new steel into the
yeah,
interface.
yeah,
See, that's the difference. Is the other things you're not jamming blades into the spinning things. You're
Look,
kind of like you spin them and then you stay out of the way. Y'all are like, you know what we need in there? We need some metal. We need something
yeah.
pokey.
and then we need to
But then you
start
think
hitting
about like,
ourselves in the face with the detritus as it
yeah,
flies off of the thing traveling at warp 9.
yeah,
Then again, I refuse to
yeah.
change my perception that lathes are basically just bigger routers. So y'all are spinning the wood at 18,000 RPM. Like that's where my brain is.
No.
That's where my brain is, and I
Yeah.
refuse to grow as a person in this like topic.
That's perfectly fine. We accept you for your shortcomings, and you can still hang out with us, even though you're wildly incorrect. Um,
Yeah, like my lathe could I is there a wood lathe that can even go that fast?
unless
There,
it's handmade, probably not.
Yeah.
Also, how small of a piece would you have to be turning?
Oh my God.
there
I
is
know, I
one.
think
It's a router duct taped to a cabinet door.
well
Yeah, no,
that sounds like a good thing to be afraid of.
yeah,
That's
don't
like
do
putting a
that.
lawnmower blade on an angle grinder and calling it a hedge trimmer.
I do have some. That's
I
a really
seen
good
that on the
idea.
internet box. That man's crazy.
Hey, you can buy them from Timu. They gotta be safe.
Right?
Oh,
But
or it's like what is it? The grinder discs with the chainsaw chains on them.
Or
yeah.
the
Okay,
drill bits that you chuck in that are just geared chainsaw blade. Like Timu's sticking chainsaw blades on just about everything they can find.
look, all I'm saying, boys and girls, and you can put the Chiron up on this one, Braden, is really think twice about buying angle grinder discs that have chainsaw chains on them. It is a delightful way to mutilate yourself in a not
Yeah.
so delightful kind of way.
As a former car guy or like metalworking guy, very few things in the wood shop scare me as much as just a dirty old DeWalt angle grinder with one of those like little tiny 16th inch cutoff wheels on it.
Yep.
Those are the things that convinced me to never ever not wear safety glasses when
Yeah, I mean,
operating
it only
tools.
takes the once to like, you know, really injure.
Exploding shrapnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like those little thin cutoff discs make me question how good my face shield actually is.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
And I
those are definitely the tool where you're like, I know I have the face shield, but is it good enough for this?
and I was broke back at that point, so I was buying mine from like Harbor Freight. And I'm like, I sure hope this isn't like Harbor Freight quality. But
Look,
that bolt is coming off.
there are two things that I don't buy from Harbor Freight, and that's prophylactics and parachutes. Everything else in that store is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's essentially like the real life version of Food and Stuff from Parks and Rec.
If they sold food, I'd buy it. This isn't a joke.
Well,
Mm.
And I mean, there's so many things there where it's like, if you don't buy your clamps from Harbor Freight, what are you even doing?
Buying really fancy Bessie clamps that Harbor Freight totally rips off in their own brand.
But if you break theirs, they will just give you a new one. You just bring in the broken one and they give you a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but who's got
Like,
that kind of time?
I mean, my town is like 30,000 people. Harbor Freight is less than 4 minutes away.
Mine's about 10.
Just
Yeah.
seems like a lot of hassle. When I could just not
Dude, how are you going to
explode
compare
my
the hassle of
clamps?
walking in and swapping out with trying to make a warranty claim on like a Ryobi or a DeWalt tool, which is where you have to like take it into the depot, you have to fill out a thing, they have to send it off for evaluation. It gets evaluated and a case number is issued. And meanwhile, you still don't have a tool unless you buy a replacement that you won't be reimbursed for. And then they'll either repair it and send it back or maybe offer you a credit. Nah, man. I swap them.
Listen, the only tool that I'm willing to act like I would probably go out of my way to go buy from Harbor Freight is I think I'm going to go buy myself a bunch of random orbital sanders and abrasives from Harbor Freight. I think that's a good move.
The abrasives aren't bad. If it's got a cord coming out of the back of it, it's not a bad sander. If it's battery powered, I wouldn't.
I'm going to pull down all my banners and just replace them with Harbor Freight banners.
You can't do that. You love Hannah too much, and Hannah spoils us rotten.
Hannah's in the chat, and I'm just being mean to her just because I can.
This is good.
I will say that we met Hannah and Spencer in Texas, and they were fun. They were good sports about our antics.
That's a good thing.
Hannah's in. Hannah is in on the antics.
Yeah. Not everybody was. A couple people were.
That's how you can tell.
I don't think Sawdust Talk could have a much better sponsor than Hannah. She lets us do and say pretty much anything we want to, and that brings a lot of joy for us.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of mandatory.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that brings us to my next question, which is, you mentioned earlier you were looking to upgrade to a bigger lathe so that you could start turning bigger stuff.
yeah.
What's on your radar, buddy? What are you thinking?
Oh, for a whole host of reasons, I am thinking Laguna 1836.
That's a nice lathe. A lot of happy people.
Yeah.
I have,
and I have to be able to get it into my basement.
that's a thing too.
Yeah.
Listen,
That's a thing too. So
40...
I got a friend named Q who is 6'3" and every bit of 275 pounds of just like beef, right?
Yeah.
And he makes fun of me because he knows that I stay friends with him so that he can get things off the high shelves in my house. But he would definitely, and has been, my big heavy thing mover helper for some time now. You can see him in some of my Instagram stories. I taught him.
I have seen him, yeah.
Yeah, how to work on the lathe. He's a big boy. But yeah, the big Rikon is the one that still has captivated my fantasies. And I know that is, when it's assembled, is like every bit of 800 pounds.
Yeah.
And I got to go down 1.5 flights of stairs with it.
And my stairs aren't straight either. I think I know I posted a video of the adventure that it'll have to take on the Royal Order of Woodturners, but I mean, it's like you come in through the house, up and around into the living room, and then the basement stair, like the door, and then the stairs spiral down. It's a mess. So, because everybody's like, why don't you go bigger? Like, because I have to carry it through that.
Listen, this sounds like a problem that could be
dolly and a 6-pack of beer later, buddy. I'll get that lathe down in your basement.
That's what I was gonna say. This sounds like a problem that could be fixed with $47 cash, a 6-pack of beer, and one Craigslist post.
Maybe.
then again, you got to deal with some strangers willing to do manual labor for $47 and a 6-pack of beer, knowing your address from Craigslist.
Yeah.
But the lathe would be down there.
The copper in your pipes would be gone, but
Oh, I don't worry about that. Between me and my dogs, my house is pretty safe.
that's a good thing.
Also,
But
he
I
swapped out
figured
to
it out,
PEX
though.
years ago.
But I figured it out though. The 1836 comes completely apart because it's got the sliding headstock for the outboard turning. So outboard turning, you get plenty of swing, and I think the heaviest single component is the bed, and the bed is just shy of 200 pounds, which I can totally do by myself.
On a dolly.
Look at this humble brag over here. Oh, I could totally carry the 200 pounds because I'm yoked as hell.
No, not yoked.
Do you want to take
as
off your
hell.
shirt? Show us the guns.
Definitely not yoked as hell, but I can move 200 pounds.
He's like, I made a refrigerator go down them stairs and it was damn close. So yeah, we
Plus, you got gravity on your side. Oh, there it is. Just like do like the slide maneuver. Just like
it's
as a
not
kid
straight.
going down.
It has to go down 2 turns.
The wall will
yield.
take care of it, and the dude will abide.
Yeah.
The wall
Okay,
will
so
yield.
you wrap it in a little bit extra bubble wrap and just
Push.
yeet.
Yeah.
As the children say, yeet.
Well, my dog weighs 180 pounds, and I carry him around. So
Oh, well, what are you worried about? Put on a belt.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, go to Wally World and get one of them fancy gut and back support suspender belts and just march it down.
Just put some ratchet straps on it and use those as handles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just you know.
I think
rock
we
it
No,
right
that I
down
can
those
do.
stairs.
That one I can do. But everybody's like, "Oh, you should go for all these different things." Like, no, that won't fit, or I will break myself trying to get it down there.
No, I think
Are
we've
you going to
solved
get
the
one that
problem.
runs on 110 or 220?
440.
240.
I'm gonna shoot for the 220.
All right.
My electrical's a little interesting, but I do have space for one 220 line, so I want a 220 lathe and a 220 bandsaw.
Do it.
What do you mean
Yeah.
by your electrical is interesting? Because I've seen TJ's interesting electrical. Are you talking like you like loop-de-loop loose wires on to plugs, or
No, the people that originally built the house, so the main panel is completely full. There's no space. I have a sub panel for the furnace and AC that has just enough space to run a single 220 line. And then both panels will be completely full. Which,
yeah, and so as long as you're not running them both at the same time,
right,
you could put 2 outlets on that one breaker.
right.
I
And I
think.
mean, I
I'm
don't
not an electrician. I
foresee-
don't give code advice, but like,
Yeah,
you get one of those? You're gonna have to custom make it, but get a extension cord that pigtails out into 2 plugs.
yeah. No,
'Cause
pretty much.
Then they plug in the same outlet, and then you could run them on the same time because they like the pulses, the amps will alternate, and it'll be totally fine.
that sounds
Well,
like
and
a
I
house fire, bud.
I don't foresee being able to run the bandsaw and the lathe at the same time by myself anyway.
You just got to reach and flip both the switches like it.
That sounds like a really good way to be able to count to 8. For sure.
All right. Okay. Sawdust talk. Helping people count to 8. Wednesday nights at 9.
Count as high as you can, and then wait 1 more hour. Sawdust talk. So what's next? What do you see coming up for your shop? Since you're not going to apparently cause an electrical fire or break your back going down the stairs with your excuses.
Right. No, that's my main next goal is a bigger lathe. And then once I get that stuff sorted, I will probably turn my shop into an actual shop.
I was gonna say, so do you do this on the? I don't know a lot about your background. Do you do this on the side, or are you doing this for fun? Are you doing this like full time?
I
What do you do?
I I am disabled through the VA. I do this and I take care of my kids.
Okay.
which is
So
wonderful.
yeah.
And
So it's kind of my main gig, but it's also only 15 to 20 hours a week on a good week. Because I pretty much
lucky.
just do it when they're in school. Not enough to call it full time, you know. But
So where are you selling product? Where do you sell through?
Etsy, pretty much. So, or like if people see stuff they like on Instagram, they'll message me. But for the most part, I started the Instagram with the idea of using it as a platform to sell things. And the community's just been so great. I kind of just bailed on that idea really fast. So, like,
I think a lot of people go
pretty
through
much,
that.
huh?
I think a lot of people go through that. Start off
Yeah.
as a as a portfolio, and then
Yeah.
all the nonsense woodworkers out there get involved, and suddenly it's really hard to sell woodworking products to other woodworkers. And then you're just telling a bunch of silly jokes and getting on late night audio experiences.
Yeah. Well, and it just became more about getting to know people and seeing what everybody's doing and the different support systems and advice and helping each other. And it's just like, man, I just don't really need to push my stuff. Like most people know that I sell my stuff, and sometimes they message me if they want something, you know. But my Etsy does okay, okay enough. So I'm fortunate I have a sugar mama, so it's pretty much just for me to be able to buy more woodworking stuff.
That's how this whole thing works.
Living
Yeah.
the dream over here.
Yeah.
Woodworking with the sugar mama.
Yeah.
Ugh. I need to have that
Get up,
talk with my
man.
wife again.
Squeeze the babies,
Yeah.
make some pocket knockers.
Yeah.
It was a pretty solid week, dude.
It's hard to fight. It's hard to have a problem with it. It's
Okay.
the American dream. I've decided that's the actual American dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Squeeze your babies, do some woodworking,
Yeah. Let
eat
your wife pay the
bacon,
bills.
Ron Swanson.
Kiss the hands, shake the babies.
It's like do the army thing and get free healthcare and all of that because it turns out bombs are bad for you. And then the wife pays all the bills and I get to play with the kids and play with my tools.
Everybody wins.
And that's not a euphemism.
Nope.
Okay, so is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Let's talk
Well,
about
the
friendship.
other
Let's talk
the
about
other
friendship from like an
charity.
existentialism sort of view. Like, let's go way, way up, but also way, way down.
What does that mean?
Into what?
I don't know. I just wanted to say something that sounded really smart. Let's talk about charity.
Sounded real
I like
fancy.
charity.
So, well, the other charity thing that we're doing, especially if you guys get Casey Bombshell on, she has a handful of us veterans all hopped together, and she is selling a whole series of shirts that are getting donated to a different veteran charity every quarter. This quarter's Mission 22.
Tell us briefly
Um,
about Mission 22.
They are a veteran foundation that is raising awareness and trying to help veterans deal with suicide and PTSD and the mental health issues. Um, and it's done really well so far. We've sold a little over, I think, 30 shirts. So,
I'm for it.
yeah. But there's a bunch of different designs. Like I put up a couple designs. Jason Grant at Wolf Woodcrafts put up a couple. Fort Labrador Woodworking put up a couple. Dirty Like Craftsman put up a couple. There's a good amount of stuff up there if people find things they like. And then so she's covering her costs, and then $5 on top out of every sale goes to Mission 22 for the quarter.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then we've lined up a couple for the rest of the year. We'll probably drop some new designs. I might try and make a couple of things and do that to supplement that. Like Brian and I did this for April because that did so much better than I ever thought it would. To all of the people that have blown that up so far, thank you. Yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
that's our big one, running all year. And then I know you asked, so 2511 woodworking is not an interesting story per se. When I made the Instagram, I couldn't think of what kind of a name I was going to use. My birthday is February 11th. My wife's birthday is May 11th.
There you go.
That's all it
2511.
is. Yeah,
I was
that's
trying to
all it
figure
is.
out. I was trying to figure out the math there, and I was like, 2-5. That has nothing to do with February 11th. I don't get. And then it just dawned.
211, 511.
It was
Yeah.
like, that's clever. I got it.
Yeah, because I couldn't think of anything. And then I was like, you know what? It's got a ring to it. Go with it.
All right, Mr. Sergeant, the time is now 10:02. And as
Yeah.
we reach the end of our hour, every week I do ask our guests to give us a thought, a motivational quote, a reason to kick open our shop doors, make a mess, get awesome, hold a tool. Um, what's driving you to do the same?
It's kind of a little bit of everything for me, if we're honest. It started out as a way to cope with my life. And nowadays, like, I come down here, I don't listen to music, I don't listen to podcasts, I just work in silence. And it's a really good state of being to process things when you're having a hard time. It's my therapy, literally, for PTSD, for everything. Um, I don't function the same without it, truthfully. When if things are going on with the kids and whatever, and I won't come down here for a couple of weeks, my wife will be like, "You need to just go make something for a little while." It grounds me, you know.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I feel like the more and more I've talked to people, and the more and more I've been open about a lot of those things and talked out a lot of those things, military or not, so many people are doing the same thing without realizing it. You know, that that is our version of people scrolling on their phones for hours or going out and drinking too much. Like, this is what we all do to manage our day to day.
yeah, for me
And
it's instant flow state. I think
yeah.
it has to do with the danger and the technique and the focus,
Hmm.
but it takes 3 minutes of holding tools to wood
Yeah.
before I'm just in the zone, and there's nothing like it for me. And so I completely understand where you're coming from, man.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's a proven thing. There's, like, you have Rob Cosman in Canada that does the Purple Heart Project. He teaches hand tool woodworking as distractive therapy for injured vets, you know. And I think we all do it. We all use that for that reason and just maybe don't realize it. And then that's part of how we become so passionate about it, is because it's that mental space that you can achieve. I feel like it's probably how, like, great musicians feel when they play piano or something, you know. And that's really what it amounts to, is, you get out there and you do it because you need it. If we weren't passionate about it, if we didn't need it, none of us would do it. It isn't easy. It isn't cheap. Nobody's making millions. We do it because we love it, because we need it.
And also, if not you, then who, right?
Yeah. Who else is going to make tiny mallets?
Look, man, I've never desired a pocket knocker more. I'm just gonna let you know.
Wait, I'm not going to make millions doing this? What?
Braden, you will.
What the hell?
You might.
You will. You
Uh,
bought that book from that guy with the question marks all over his suit that's full of leads for elite woodworking clientele, right?
Yeah,
That's
how to make $1 million. It was a $1 audio book. and he was
Yeah,
on
did they
like
say start with 2 and then become a woodworker?
He had like 950,000 sales so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
getting close.
I
All
feel
right,
like
Andrew, look, I want to
that's the
say thank
secret.
you again for opening up to us. Thank you for big shares tonight. Thank you for geeking out about wood turning wood and species. Um,
Always.
this was killer, man. We need to make sure that we take one more lap around our sponsors. The first of which is Surf Prep. There is such a thing as a great sander, and Surf Prep makes them. So if you were wondering if there is, you should try Surf Prep sander. They're a delight. And then George Supply Co. If you guys really want a TJT Workshop shirt, they are hidden deep in the bowels of George Supplies Co.'s website. But if you really want it bad enough, you can be the proud owner of a TJT Workshop shirt from Scott over at George Supply, who's been with us for a very, very long time. Thank you, Scott.
TJT Workshop is technically unlisted in the Maker phone book.
Yes, in the deepest, darkest corners in the sub basement behind a door that says "Beware of the leopard," you can find one of my shirts.
Where'd you
But
get a
yeah,
leopard?
that's gonna wrap things up for us tonight. We will see all of you, boys and girls, next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And thank you.
I think next week is one of the rare episodes where we're not doing a guest. It's just going to be you, me, and Jesse just horsing around for an hour, isn't it?
Who knows, man? I might have a face shield on and just blow wood shavings at you guys the whole time with an earpiece in.
Is that a
We
metaphor?
could have done that. Shoot.
Hey, look, there's always next week, bud.
There you go.
So if you want to know what the heck is going to happen next week, you got to check in the day before Thursday next week. That's Wednesday.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. Shall we adjourn, Braden?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nice.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
So, Andrew, let's just shuffle our papers like we're on the news.